Horror story. Premonition dream. I don't know if you have ever had an experience like this, where you feel like you're in a dream, but your awareness is awake. You can hear people talking around you, but you can't move or get up. This phenomenon is known as sleep paralysis in medical terms, and commonly referred to as ghost pressing on the bed in folklore. Today marks the anniversary of my best friend's passing. She was only 13 when she left us. At that time, I often wondered if I had been more attentive or said a few more words. Would things have been different? Perhaps we wouldn't be separated in life and death. It all started 3 years ago, with a dream. In the middle of 2015, I had just graduated from 6th grade, and after finishing my final exams, I followed my mom and aunt, as usual, to spend the summer vacation in Weihai. Like most parents, during summer or winter break, they like to enroll their children in various interest classes. Of course, I was no exception. On that sunny afternoon, right after my guzheng, Chinese zither class, I returned home, took off my shoes, and lay down on the bed. As I enjoyed the cool air from the air conditioner, I recollected what I had learned in class today. I don't know if it was fatigue, but as I lay there, unintentionally, I fell asleep. Then, without any warning, I knew I was going to dream, and I was well aware that it would be a nightmare. Strangely, my consciousness remained awake. I could hear the sounds around me, the hum of the air conditioner, the chirping of cicadas, even the distant noise of cars and the voices of people downstairs seeking relief from the heat. But I couldn't move a muscle. At that moment, I felt something was wrong. I tried to struggle and wake up, but no matter how hard I tried, my efforts were in vain. I was completely immobilized. Helplessly, I began to dream. In the dream, I was a large tree, an ancient tree that had seen countless years. Under my shade, many people circled around me, my elementary school classmates, kindergarten friends, and even some unfamiliar faces. They revolved around me in circles, and with each revolution, they aged 1 year. I watched as they grew up, lived, aged, fell ill, and experienced the inevitable stages of life. I also saw their descendants following the same cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. This continued endlessly. It was at that moment I realized how terrifying it was to watch my friends die, one by one, right before my eyes. Even in a dream, it sent shivers down my spine. Just as I began to feel hopeless, my aunt returned. She saw me struggling on the bed, muttering something unintelligible. She tried to wake me up by patting me, but I remained unresponsive. My aunt was somewhat superstitious, and I don't know how, but she managed to wake me up. After awakening, I glanced at the clock on the wall. It had only been an hour. However, I felt like I had been trapped in that nightmare for a very long time. My aunt asked me what was wrong, and I told her I had a long nightmare. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't wake up. I'm grateful you came back. After waking up, I couldn't remember the specific events of the dream. All I recalled was being a tree, watching my classmates circle around me over and over again, witnessing their life and death. However, the death of one particular close friend stood out in my memory. When she was completing the second circle, she died from gas poisoning. I desperately wanted to save her, to wake her up, or remove the gas canister, but I was helpless as a tree. There was nothing I could do. At that time, I thought it was just a nightmare, nothing more. I didn't think much of it and let it go. Later, I heard that my best friend actually passed away that year, just like in the dream, from gas poisoning. According to her family, when she returned to her hometown, her grandparents placed a heater in her room to keep her warm. It was a gas heater, but no one expected a gas leak to occur, and she left us just like that. If I had known back then, I would have definitely told her early on, urging her to be careful. Unfortunately, we can't know things ahead of time. Now, whenever I think about this incident, my heart fills with sorrow. Alongside self-blame, I feel immense sadness for her. It's regrettable to witness a vibrant life extinguished before it even had a chance to blossom. Horror story. The water ghost's demise. My home is located in a rural area in Binzhou City. Binzhou City is situated in the northern part of Shandong Province, in the heart of the Lubei Plain and the Yellow River Delta. It has a rich history and culture, serving as one of the birthplaces of the Yellow River and Qi cultures. Prominent historical figures such as Sun Wu, a famous military strategist of ancient times, Dong Yong, a filial son from the Han dynasty, Fan Zhongyan, a renowned political figure from the Song dynasty, and Du Shutian, an imperial tutor from the Qing dynasty, were either born or grew up here. As far as I can remember, there was a large ditch on the south side of the village used for irrigating farmland. It was called Chuanbahan. The water in it was deep, and it connected to the Tuai River nearby. The Tuai River is located on the northern bank of the Yellow River, flowing through the provinces of Henan, Hebei, and Shandong, forming a narrow and elongated strip from southwest to north. After merging with the Qingku River in Zhanhua District, Binzhou City, the main stream flows through Dongfeng Port and eventually enters the sea. Although Chuanbahan was a large ditch, it was actually a man-made canal excavated with an excavator. The bucket of the excavator could dig several meters deep. There were many relatively deep and invisible water pits beneath the surface of Chuanbahan, and every year, people would drown there due to various reasons. My cousin almost had an accident in Chuanbahan. It was a terrifying story from his life. At the time, my cousin was 12 years old and went to a relatively shallow area of Chuanbahan with 3 friends to catch crabs. It was a hot noon that day, and the water in Chuanbahan shimmered green under the sunlight, like a translucent green jade. The glimmering waves beckoned people to come closer and interact with the water. The children, seeking the coolness of the water, gradually moved from the bank toward the center of Chuanbahan. Some passing farmers, who happened to be going home, saw us, a group of children getting closer to the center of the river, and shouted loudly, "You kids, don't go to the deep parts of the water. They're all deep pits, and if you're not careful, you'll drown." After warning my cousin and his friends, the villagers continued on their way. My cousin and his friends were enjoying themselves too much and didn't pay attention to what the adults said. Since they had grown up near the water, they were all adept swimmers. Influenced by the hot weather, their playful mood, and the refreshing coolness of the water, they began swimming towards the deeper parts. One of the skinny boys, whom we all called Skinny Monkey, was an excellent swimmer. He could hold his breath underwater for a long time. As if showing off, he slowly swam towards the middle of Chuanbahan, diving into the water with a splash. At first, everything seemed fine, and we thought he was just having fun underwater. But after waiting for a long time and not seeing him resurface, we became terrified. We clapped the water surface and shouted his name loudly, but he didn't respond or come up. Just when everyone had been shouting and was about to cry, Skinny Monkey suddenly stood up in front of my cousin and the others, holding a human skull in his hand and laughing at my cousin. The skull in his hand had dark eye sockets, facing my cousin's face from a close distance. My cousin, who was the most timid, was frightened by the sudden appearance of the person in the skull from underwater. He screamed loudly and scrambled up the bank, shouting in fear that he and the other 2 still in the water and Skinny Monkey should go home. The other 2 friends told Skinny Monkey to throw away the skull in his hand. Skinny Monkey, however, disregarded their advice and said, "There are still many down there. I'm not afraid. It's just a human bone." Although he appeared fearless, my cousin and the other friends didn't have the same courage. They kept urging him to throw it away. After the other friends strongly expressed their unwillingness to play with him and their intention to go home, Skinny Monkey casually threw the skull to the side of the ditch. According to my cousin, on the night they all went into the water, the 4 of them inexplicably developed high fevers. Even after taking medicine at home, it didn't work. The parents of the children gathered together, exchanged information, and found out that they had been bathing and playing in the ditch. Most importantly, the monkey had picked up a dead person's bone to play with. Since the parents were all from rural areas, they could roughly guess what had happened. They had no choice but to call for the village's collector to come. The old man who helped them collect at that time was already very old, and he has since passed away. The old man said that where they found the human skull before digging the canal was originally a grave, and it was an abandoned grave. Skinny Monkey had disrespected the human remains by taking out the bones and throwing them by the ditch, which was not only disrespectful, but also very ominous. After much effort and help from several families, they managed to collect all 4 of them. As for the process of collecting, my cousin said that the old man mumbled something for a while, and then he fell asleep. He didn't know what happened afterward. After a long time, my cousin heard his family members talking and mentioned that the old man had told my aunt to have Skinny Monkey's family return the skull the next day. However, when Skinny Monkey's family went to look for the skull the next day, they searched for a long time but couldn't find it. Unexpectedly, they found the body of a mentally challenged person from a neighboring village in the Tuai River. He was holding a human skull in his arms. According to the villagers, some people who were working in the fields saw the mentally challenged person from the neighboring village standing by the riverbank, foolishly laughing while holding a skull. The villagers didn't pay much attention. They thought it was over, but it was heard that Skinny Monkey also drowned in Chuanbahan 2 years later while taking a bath. My cousin was frightened as a child and never dared to go near that ditch again. As he grew older, he gradually left the village to seek a livelihood elsewhere and never returned. From the time I can remember, it was not uncommon for several people to die in that ditch every year. Recently, during summer vacation, 3 20-year-old boys drowned in that ditch. I don't know what they encountered or if it had anything to do with the thing in the ditch,